Good evening, Agile acquisition enthusiasts, and welcome back to the Underground Digital Tiki Bar. It's Wednesday night, but we're in quarantine, so cheers. All right. Well, on tonight's episode, I wanted to talk about how are contractors and government agencies responding to the current COVID-19 quarantine challenges. And it's obviously a big change for the government and for contractors. There have been incidents like this before. H1N1 and SARS have had some impact on governments and contractors' ability to perform, especially on site. But obviously, this is the most significant one that we've experienced in recent history, at least. And it's creates a specific challenge for, like I mentioned, those vendors that have to provide support on site. And probably for a lot of contractors out there, they're wondering, how does this impact new contracts or new business? And I will tell you, I've reached out to most of the people I could think of as far as contacts to ask, what do they think the impact's going to be? And of course, there's news coming out regularly. Federal News Network has been really good about posting current state of events and rules and policies. OMB has come out and urged agencies to be flexible with contracts with regards to equitable adjustments and periods of performance with regards to those contractors that are unable to perform because they require access to government personnel or government facilities, and they can't because of the current situation. So that's good. As well as the OMB policy that did come out echoed a lot of the presidential uh, emergency activity or emergency emergency policies that were put in place. Sorry about that. And that increases the simplified acquisition threshold and increases the micro purchase threshold. So the micro purchase threshold is up to $20,000 now. That's a significant increase. It's $10,000 typically. So $20,000. So vendors should be thinking about, what are ways that they could support the government in sort of bite-sized chunks, maybe get in, do user research, other engagements where they can kind of come in, demonstrate value and function for the government. Obviously, anything that can help support the COVID-19 response is a great way to get in there without a lot of the typical acquisition processes that are required to bring a vendor in. Additionally, the simplified acquisition threshold has been increased. It's now $750,000. And then you may be aware that the commercial simplified acquisition threshold, which is typically $7 million, has now been increased to 13 million. So that's a significant mechanism for the government to use and for the contractors to use as part of their strategy when they're talking with their government stakeholders who are trying to figure out how to work through acquisition processes. Of course, remember, simplified acquisition thresholds, as the name suggests, allow the government much more flexibilities in how they execute contracts, can move very far away from the typical FAR 15 bureaucracy and really leverage some of the innovative approaches we've seen with commercial solutions openings, down selects, virtual interviews for evaluation instead of voluminous tech volumes. So there's been a lot of that work at DHS. This is now something that agencies can be taken advantage of up to $13 million. I'll just reemphasize that as far as I'm concerned, Agile development services should be considered commercial contracting because that's where that concept came from in the commercial marketplace. Other things to be aware of, probably the most significant is 8A sole source justification can go up to $100 million without having to write a justification and getting approval. And that's wild, right? This is typically $22 million. Of course, it's $4 million just for to do an 8A sole source, $22 million to get if you have justification and approval. Now, under these new policies and rules, it's been increased up to $100 million. So 8A firms should be leveraging this when they're talking to their stakeholders and customers. The contracting officers should be leveraging this, look for strategic partnerships to bring 8As in. And I should mention, though, of course, that is at the DoD. That's the Department of Defense policy. So um, a lot of work is going on to try and minimize the impact of this. Of course, the impacts are going to be significant. Personally, from my position, what I have seen is things may be slowing down a little bit, but The government agencies are still very much trying to execute on both their mission while executing on their response to COVID-19. And in both ways, I think they're doing an incredible job. I'm very impressed with what I've seen across the board from the federal marketplace, especially DoD, where I spend most of my time looking, has just really gone above and beyond to try to keep both incredible missions, their typical incredible mission, and then also their response, all at the same time while trying to keep their employees and the members of our services safe. So, doing all sorts of creative things to limit the exposure to them, allowing more unprecedented teleworking options to individuals that typically can't do that. And while, of course, this is all very tragic and challenging and going to take a major uh, blow to, or provide a major blow to our economy and things like that, there are some opportunities here to accelerate adoptions of technology and think about the way we do things. Excess creates waste, and in this circumstances, we definitely don't have excess, and so people are having to be really creative about how they solve problems and continue to meet their missions, and that's encouraging. So there you have it. That's my take. I'll continue to provide updates on what I'm seeing with regards to the marketplace and regulation, policy, and statute as this continues to move on. And of course, if this is helpful, please let me know if there's specific areas you're interested in. Give me a thumbs up if you like it, and subscribe if you haven't. And until the next time, cheers.